Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to a video. This is a paid request from Antonio. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, reviews, topics, reactions, commentaries, re-reviews, randomness, video game playthroughs, what have you, commentaries, PayPal is usually the best bet. Or you join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box if you want to. And this is for Antonio, one of my thoughts on the Janky Promoters from 2009. Now, I've heard of this film. I thought I had seen this film, but then I realized actually I had seen First Sunday with Ice Cube and Mike Epps, and this also has Ice Cube. Now, I think those two work well together. In particular, Next Friday and All About the Benjamins. Next Friday is a good sequel. Not as good as the first Friday, but I think Next Friday is a worthy sequel. I think Mike Epps is pretty entertaining. He does showcase solid chemistry with Ice Cube. There's a lot of good laughs in that movie. And All About the Benjamins, I think, is underrated. I think Mike Epps is absolutely hilarious in that movie. Ice Cube holds his own. And All About... That's one that gets some chuckles out of me, so... But the third Friday they starred in, I'm not a big fan of. First Sunday, I thought was flat out awful. This, I didn't care for, but at the same time, I would rather watch it than First Sunday, but Ice Cube says this was supposed to be in theaters. It does not seem like a movie that would be in theaters. Now, there is an interview where apparently, like I said, this film was supposed to be in theaters, but as Ice Cube said, the Weinsteins fucked him. This was released by Dimension. And in the interview, Ice Cube mentioned that the Weinsteins were in some financial trouble and they didn't want to really put it in the theaters. So Ice Cube said, okay, we talked with them and we could take the movie and maybe sell it to another studio that would put in theaters. But then Ice Cube's worked on something else. He turns around and this movie just put out on DVD, and it wasn't a finished product. You know, Ice Cube even said, well, it still needs some editing, it still needs some fine tuning. And I think he said, well, we could have made it 25% better. I don't know if that would have been enough, but yeah, apparently the Weinsteins got people to edit the film, release the film on DVD, and so people come up and go, oh, yeah, your movie's out, huh? He's like, what? Oh, okay. That's why this got it didn't seem like a theatrical picture, but I mean, I don't know. Neither did First Sunday, and they got in theaters, so maybe so. And the director of this did Friday After Next. I think that's one of the problems, because I don't think that guy is a great director. I know he did a lot of music videos. Friday After Next is the one Friday film I do not like. I do not think it's funny. I think it's a very piss poor sequel to two fairly good, solid comedies. And the premise of this film is Ice Cube and Mike Epps are promoters who are obviously not good at their job. They're going to try to set up this concert where Young Jeezy, or Young Yeezy, how the hell you pronounce his name, a real rapper, they're going to get him to perform. And then they also have their deals where Ice Cube is trying to get his son wants to be a rapper, so he's trying to get this actual rapper to listen to his son's music. He's teaching his son how to get those dancers up there and have your dancers shake their ass. Mike Epps is boning a girl who's married to a cop. And the first thing we see Mike Epps is that him and the girl are leaving a motel, and this TV show called So Busted comes by and goes, hey lady, how come you cheat on your husband? And Mike Epps does have some fun bits of it. Like the guy hosting the show goes, do you know that you maybe ruined this marriage? And Mike Epps goes, do you know that I don't give a fuck? Like the way he says mannerisms, like I said, I like Mike Epps. I think he's a pretty damn funny guy. And yeah, that stuff going on. Ice Cube has a girlfriend, and he's stealing checks from her. Now, you think that's going to come to bite him on the ass, but the girl never finds out about it. So it seems like a plot that you think was going to go somewhere else. Oh, she's going to find out that he's stealing her checks, and there's going to be some kind of friction and some kind of argument, some kind of fight, and she's going to break up with him, and then he's got to prove himself. No, none of that's in the movie. There's a kind of a funny scene, random because you never see this character again, but there's a bit of a funny bit where Ice Cube goes see his mom, and his mom is cooking crack, cocaine, to sell it, because her and her friend sell drugs, and I guess they've been selling drugs since the '60s, and they've been selling crack since like the '80s or so. So that was a bit different. You don't see that every day. But yeah, pretty much they're being very cheap. So when the rapper and his entourage come in, there's no driver, so they're just waiting and waiting. Then I sense Mike Epps, who comes in a van, a rickety van. And then because the rapper wants some weed, Mike Epps stops and gets some weed from a guy. And there's some funny exchanges between him and the guy, where the guy tries to get Mike Epps to go, hey, that rapper, make sure he comes to my after party. Okay, this big wad of cash. Don't fuck me. Don't fuck with me. Sometimes the low budget is seen. I swear to God, when they're in the van, there is a scene where Mike Epps is arguing with the people in the back, or they're talking. And when it cuts to the people in the back, the windows are all yellow. Yellow. As in, this bit here, we couldn't have them actually driving around, so they're in some studio or wherever the hell, and the windows are yellow. And people will go, well, maybe that's how the windows normally look. Well, the front windows don't look like that. Only these back windows when we cut to the rapper's entourage in the back of the van. And then there's a point when they're parked, and we see the back of the van again, and the windows are clear. You just see the trees, you just see the cars parked, all that stuff. So that must have been something that they were going to do afterward to put. Maybe that's why Ice Cube says this wasn't a finished movie. I mean, there's not a whole lot of times I saw something like that, but that's one that definitely comes to mind. It's like one shot, there's the windows are yellow, then the next scene they're not yellow, and you just see through them. So definitely a big mistake. But again, if that was something they don't put after the fact, which I'm like, you can't just drive somewhere and just shoot. I don't know. Seemed like it'd be easier to do that, but apparently not. And there's a lot of jokes that don't work. Like a guy that owns the theater that this concert's going to be in, the Ice Cube owes money to. There's a bit where his name is Julio, calls Ice Cube, and for some reason Julio has a cowboy hat and he's riding a saddle in the middle of his room. I just thought that'd just be a funny gag. And I recognize the guy that plays Julio. I think he's one of the cops. The two one of the two cops that messed with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in the first Bad Boys movie. Does he have like the two cops, more like the Latino, or I'm not sure their ethnicity. I think that's him, one of the two. And they take the rappers onto his traffic motel. And the guy working with the rapper, who's also knowing Ice Cube and Mike Epps, he fucks one of the women because she's a worker. She's working cleaning, but then they have sex. When they get found out, the lady doesn't want to get fired, so she falsely claims that he did something to her. He's like, she lying, she lying. Even one of the workers are going, come on, you can't let that go, right? Like, you can't follow through on that. And then the lady is taken to the police along with the guy, and you never see them again. So that seems like another plot, another subplot that's never finished. Just like Ice Tube stealing the checks, and he's don't get money from the bank, and there's never more where Ice Tube gets that money back, or the girlfriend finds out about that. So that whole subplot didn't really go anywhere. Maybe it was never meant to. The bit where I mentioned that the guy that gets arrested, falsely accused by the worker at the motel, they go in the cop car. You never see them again. The son who wants to be a rapper, he's rapping at the concert, but he's doing piss poorly. They pretty much tell him to get off the stage. But then there's never any Ice Cube going, hey son, you don't need to be a rapper, or hey, you know what, man, we'll try next time, or any of the sort that I remember. And the movie's one of those flicks that just has a lot of stereotypes. And that's another thing with the film is just there's a lot of stereotypes. You know, the rappers and the the women, like the way a lot of the women speak, and I just a lot of stereotypical stuff that just kind of there wasn't much wit to it. There wasn't much satire. You think Ice Cube, who's been in the music so long, who's been a rapper many, many, many years, decades, you think he would have a lot of insight to actual janky promoters. A lot of promoters that fucked him or his the NWA or when he was on his solo career that fucked him around, and that he could tell a lot of stories about that and about the life of a rapper, what he goes through. He doesn't really do any of that. It's just very by the numbers in terms of the plot. Ice Cube and Mike Epps, I still think they have the chemistry there. It's just the writing is to me is not nearly as funny as Friday. I mean, Next Friday. It was not as funny as Friday, but for Mike Epps and Ice, Next Friday are all about the Benjamins. And like, okay, you looked at the first Friday, since talking about Ice Cube. You looked at the little subplots there. You have the bit with Ice Cube and this girl that he likes. You have the bit with Debo, who's beating up the guy and he took the guy's bike, and the guy gets his bike back. You have stuff with Chris Tucker and Big Worm, and Big Worm's going to get his money when Chris Tucker's talking with him on the phone. There's a nice little scene between Ice and his dad. You win some, you lose some. Rest in peace, Johnny Witherspoon. I feel like that plot was just a bit more better constructed compared to this. And the way we get into the finale is pretty much Mike Epps is supposed to pay the rapper, but he spent all the money on his clothes. Of course, Ice Cube is pissed about that. The rappers don't want to go on. The rapper doesn't want to go on. So the crowd are pissed off at Ice Cube's son rapping. They don't like it as much. They're wondering where young Jeezy is. They start a riot. The guy who Mike Epps got the money from to have the after party starts chasing and shooting at Mike Epps and Ice Cube. So they run off, and then they're kind of arguing a bit at each other, and they go, well, you know what, it's both our fault. And then they just get a phone call from Ice Cube's girlfriend. Where are you, man? I'm at the after party. What? Yeah, young Jeezy is here. He saw one of the flyers. Almost seems like an afterthought. Yeah, he just saw one of the flyers, and he has an after party, and this after party is being fantastic. So our two leads get there. They mingle around the party. Young Jeezy is rapping. They get up, say, hey, this is thanks to us. You think the rapper would be like, fuck these guys, they didn't do anything for me, or they didn't give me my money? I mean, young Jeezy still didn't get his money, but I guess he enjoys his after party, so him not getting his money still is just kind of forgotten about. The theater owner still didn't get his money, so you think he's gonna be going after Ice Cube and Mike Epps? Unless there's something I missed. The son didn't really get his rapper dreams. The girlfriend didn't really, still hasn't found out that Ice Cube took some of her money. Okay, they're known as supposedly promoting this place, but that doesn't mean they get the money, do they? Wouldn't the money go to this other guy? So at least that other guy's not going to go after Mike Epps, since he wanted the rap for his after party and it worked out that way. But it's still like the guy who owns the theater, Julio, and his girlfriend. I mean, it seems like a lot of threads are kind of left dangling. That a lot of loose ends. Felt like a lot of loose ends kind of left dangling. It felt like a very lazy way to end it. They run away. They feel like they're fucked. The situation is kind of solved off screen, where neither of them did anything. They didn't grow. They didn't learn anything. They didn't really do anything to fix the situation or realize what they're doing is wrong or anything. And so the story kind of falls fairly flat because of that. And Ice Cube and Mike Epps, I like those two guys, but there's just better movies you can watch dealing with those two folks. I did. I didn't watch. I maybe want to rewatch All About the Benjamins or Next Friday. Actually Next Friday I don't think I have on Blu-ray. Maybe I'll pick that up one day. It made me want to do that instead. I guess if you're a diehard fan of Ice Cube, Mike Epps, the both of them, Be My Guest. I still remember getting a few more chuckles out of this compared to First Sunday, but in a way, I think the Weinsteins made the right call and dumping this direct to video. I don't think this film would have done anything in theaters. I think if you saw this in theaters, you'd be going, this should have been straight to video. And it's understandable why you haven't really heard of this movie. It's not the worst comedy ever. Like I said, the bit with Mike Epps and the Soul Busted TV show, some of Mike Epps' dialogue is entertaining. The bit with, I think Glenn Plummer, I think it's the cop. I think that's the same guy from the film Speed. I think he's the guy Keanu Reeves takes his car in order to get on the bus. I think that's Glenn Plummer. If so, then he was also in Speed 2. The mom, dealing with drugs, that was kind of funny. I don't think Ice Cube and Mike Epps are sleepwalking. It's just, I don't think the script was really up to par with some of their other stuff. At least that's me. But hey, if like every film I review or talk about, see it for yourself, watch the trailers, watch the clips. You may enjoy more than I did. So with that said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.